Happy Earth Day, soul healers. I've been having a little weirdness with the internet. So if you saw that I went on and then I went off, that's because my internet went off. Weird integrate retrograde is happening, and retrograde happens to people, to everyone, first of all. But when you're a highly sensitive person, it really messes things up because, sensitivity is your electricity, your nervous system, and your nervous system actually does create electricity, right? And so when we get overstimulated, we can tend to short things out. It's just actually what happens. Hey, Suzanne. So I was saying, like, we're in retrograde. And so, retrograde, while if you're a highly sensitive person, it's not uncommon to like short things out. I went on before and then I wound up getting thrown back off. So I had to restart and then I remembered, oh, it's retrograde. So, what I noticed too, from a spiritual and a healing perspective about retrograde, is when you have spiritual blocks, your spiritual blocks, first of all, are your spiritual wounds, and spiritual wounds are a combination of emotional energy and astral energy, which is mind energy, and it's held in the body as stress, and it affects your nervous system. And so if you're a highly sensitive person and you're going through something new, automatically that could become overstimulating because, again, there's a lot of thought that creates a lot of emotion. So when you have a spiritual block, again, it's unprocessed energy. And so that unprocessed energy is held in the body as stress. It's what becomes your energy vibration. So, in, so I just wanted to say, maybe it's again why I shorted out the video. So today I'm doing a message for all Zodiac, and know that energy is fluid, so roles could be reversed. Flip it, switch it, twist it. Never force anything. And know that sometimes parts of a reading you'll say that resonates with me. Okay, now that resonates with the other person or that person. It's always the messages go to the person that needs to hear it. So, and you can use your own discernment. Everyone's situation is different. So I just wanted to put that out there. I also wanted to let anyone know any important links that I happen to have, you'll find in the description box. And if you wanted to win a free psychic reading with me on the air and you haven't won one already, all you need to do is like, subscribe, and write the word forgiveness. Today's word is forgiveness. And again, we're in retrograde and holding on to a negative energy, and understand when we need to forgive, that's energy that is unprocessed. So if you're waiting for your soulmate or twin flame to come back and you're holding on to energy that's angry, then actually you're holding on to energy that's going to propel the energy away from you. Yeah, but you want a reading. I said anyone that hasn't won a reading, so then this way all they have to do is like, share, and subscribe. We'll do you again soon, but I actually know what your deal is. So the message that I put up here is, what is your person thinking about you? Why are they thinking what they're thinking? And any other important spiritual messages. And if anybody knows me, they know that I always start off using my deck, the Psychic Soul Reader deck, because I want to look at the underlying energy. Now you might say, well, you read me before, so the underlying energy is always the same. No, a lot of times we have a lot of different spiritual wounds, and healing happens in layers. So it's uncovering certain things. So at one point you might have been nervous about not being in a relationship. Now you might be nervous about going out onto your own. But now there are different triggers. Maybe one you felt like, well, I'm not going to have freedom. And now the other is, now I have too much freedom, you know? So it's, spiritual wounds. A lot of times they show up as karmic themes, right? So karmic themes that you live out, it's the same theme, which is why, again, we would be afraid to go out and try something new, or again, be in another relationship. It's a lot of times makes us over compensate within our behaviorisms. That's why, if I'm talking about relationships, if I'm talking about job, if I'm talking about anything that's related to how you feel about yourself, and understand every time you go out for a job, that spiritual center is going to be activated. Every time you get in a relationship, that spiritual center is going to be activated. So it's not just about understanding what the spiritual wound is. It's about understanding where it came from, why, and what you'll need to do to heal it, to integrate it. You're your own healer. You take the advice and you apply it to your life, and you get to see a new outcome. That doesn't mean that you don't have anxiety. You have to walk through the fear. That's why yoga and breath work and training your nervous system is important, again, when you're healing spiritual wounds, because your body has already been trained and conditioned to believe a certain thing. So if you've been in a bad relationship, a narcissistic relationship, then understand, now that you're in a new relationship, it doesn't mean that your body's still not going to respond as if you're still in that narcissistic relationship, because there were spiritual lessons that needed to be learned. When those lessons aren't learned, they're held in the body as stress, because all you are is energy. All you are is consciousness. So again, the Psychic Soul Healer channel is all about evolving, helping you evolve into a higher state of consciousness so that you can turn your spiritual wounds into spiritual gifts. That's what it's all about. It's about learning to see yourself differently while connecting to other like-minded people, hopefully. All right, magical realism. I love this card. I love this card. And you know why? Because it reminds me of be like childlike. And magical realism is to be able to see the fantasy in the everyday, being able to see the spiritual language in your everyday. So this might not even be about relationship first. This could be quite simply about finding yourself worried. Now I'm out on my own. And this is what I'm feeling. And probably because Suzanne's on. And it's like, now I'm on my own and I'm venturing out into a new life. And I'm getting overstimulated. And when we get overstimulated, we go up in our mind and we try and find the solutions. But the answers are not up in your mind. The illusion is that they're up in your mind. What's up in your mind is what you already know. And when you need to heal, you don't want to go by what you already know. You want to create new experiences. So it's about not coming from the mind. It's about coming from the heart. Magical realism is, again, a spiritual language of synchronicity. It's not logical. It's spiritual. And spiritual is intuitive. And so magical realism is when you're being led by that. And it's after a pretty much dark night of the soul, of a difficult time. And I'm going to say mainly because someone was stuck down feeling like they were inferior for a long time. So a lot of times when we've, come from a lower state of consciousness, we're coming from a place of fear. So inferior is why we're fearful, so that we're perceiving ourselves as not good enough. And that a lot of times is based on other relationships. Again, people that were in our lives, situations that have unfolded in our life, and that is not us. So it's important to know that if you're basing your life on, again, past experiences, you're not going to come from a true point of view. You're not going to come from the right level of consciousness. You're only going to then create what you've already created unconsciously. Again, we're healing spiritual trauma. Psychic trauma is subconscious. We're not aware. You're not aware of that. No one's walking around saying, I'm inferior, I'm inferior. No one's doing that. What happens is it comes out, and it comes out within our behaviorisms that other people can psychically pick up on. So you could be in a great relationship. Someone could believe, again, see magical realism within inside of you. And also, and we're talking about relationship, intuitively, I'm getting, again, and this is for all Zodiac, that you're in separation from a person that you have a very spiritual, deep connection to, but they are going through like a dark night of the soul. And it's mainly because they were coming from a place of inferiority. So again, soulmates come into each other's life to teach us about ourselves. So again, no one's walking around knowing that they're inferior. They say, how did I wind up with that narcissist? How did I wind up with a person? Why didn't I get that job? Why didn't I? So again, the spiritual wound is, again, inferior, but that's a lot of times created from the outside. Hello, Wendy. So let's see what else. Okay, timelessness. So yeah, when they're seeing timelessness, then I definitely know that this is also a soul relationship, because again, soul relationship is one that transcends time and space, because your soul mates and your soul family comes into your life to teach you through the life lessons of unconditional love. You're learning that you're not separate from God. They're seeing your life through all different perceptions. However, when we get spiritually blocked, we're not coming from a place of unconditional love, which is what God is. And that's what actually the energy of the universe is, which the energy of the universe is actually inside of you. And you and I are connected to each other through sensitivity and empathy. So when I'm feeling out of balance towards something, I'm actually not in alignment with the laws of love, the laws of nature, and the laws of the universe, which are obviously the laws of God. So again, and why do I say that? Because God made you in his image. So you have all the gifts that God has. You know, he made you in his image. You too can create the world with your voice. You too. But if you're not coming from the right level of consciousness, so we're coming from a very mental state of mind, which is what I felt in the beginning. But that, again, it's the answer is not to do that, is to be like childlike, to find yourself, because the answers are inside of you. So how do you find yourself? You have to create yourself. And that's an unfoldment process. So for Suzanne, I felt like that was a message for you, because I know that you are venturing out onto your own, and that it's a scary time. So now let's see what is spiritual message for you and your person. Again, whoever's on this is going to be, again, timeless message for anyone that lands on it. And sometimes messages could be redundant, too, because maybe only one person's going to watch this. Who knows? In the beginning, that's what it is. Mastery comes in doing. We're all David going up against Goliath. Don't judge the process. Oh, I judge the process. I don't like the process at all. It looks all wrong to me. And God says that's the problem. Limitation. It's like judging the process through the perception of who you are through your life experiences. God says, please don't do my job. Do your job. Be like childlike. All right, I just jump down and just jump right in and play some cards. All right, the determination. Well, again, determined to, again, someone's on, or they're going to find this message, and they're determined to make their life different. They're determined to be happy. They're determined, and that's a good thing, self-will, because sickness comes a lot of times when we get depressed, and that's when we give up. So determination is the opposite, so that's good, and that grows our character. Intrusive, and mainly because the environment is really uncomfortable. So I believe, again, when I was asking about your person, if you don't feel that your person's around, it's because, again, they're going through a dark night of the soul, which I said before. And but they when now it's getting deeper because they're determined to get the hell out of where they are because there's intrusive energy. And so again, intrusive energy could be again that your person's connected to somebody else. And again, that's it could be relationship, it could be a work situation, it could be whatever it is, but intrusive energy makes us feel like we can't come from a true sense of self. So again, what does that have to do with us? Okay, how do you feel? How does the person that's on this video, how do they feel? Where are they in their spiritual process? Again, naturalists. So you get a feeling of like, I'm just chilling. like I'm just, again, taking it in. I have no judgment of the process, which is the best way to be. Naturalists, again, when we don't judge our process and we're just comfortable in our own skin, that's the place, again, that's when we're rooted well within our root chakra because it's like I'm comfortable within me. I love me. That means. And so it's about giving and receiving of love through your free will. It's again, and that's through creating yourself. And that's how we can get the intuitive insights. You can only get the intuitive insights when you are comfortable with yourself and you're coming from, your true self. True self is the higher self. And that, again, sometimes a lot of people aren't going to like you for that. They're not going to like you. Again, so intrusive energy. Again, somebody, this could be you too. Well, I'm determined to get out of my situation because the person's intrusive and I just want to be comfortable. But if I'm reading it for somebody else, it's again, I'm just natural, I'm chilling, but I'm attached to somebody that's uncomfortable. Because again, they're going through a dark night of the soul. That's the second time I pulled that card. So that confirms already what the energy is. And that's actually good. And we don't know, again, what has happened yet because I haven't pulled cards yet for that. But the spiritual energy, if you're in separation from your person and you're like, damn, I don't feel my person like I normally feel them. And I feel like they're so far away and I feel like they haven't talked to me or called me. Well, this is good because it means, well, tower moments, right? It's like we can't heal unless we go through a dark night of the soul. Dark night of the soul is, again, when all our shadows wind up manifesting within our life experiences. It's like the end of the line, right? Everything happens in the spiritual realm long before it happens in the physical world. So, again, when we have a spiritual block, a spiritual wound, it's a psychological block. And as I said, is held in the body as stress, but it also gets channeled out through behaviorism. So, the person's energy was they had a big ego, which I would see, which would be with being intrusive, or being under the thumb of someone intrusive and not being able to come from our true self, then we're going to form more addictions and behaviorisms because understand there is a God part of self. The God part of self is the higher self, which has to be real. It has to and it has to be real, meaning we have to feel comfortable and at ease. And we can only do that a lot of times when we are creating ourselves and through a bigger purpose, a higher purpose, something that connects us to other people, something that holds our vibration to unconditional love, right? Which is the energy of the universe, which is the energy of God. It goes back to that. So what I see here is that somebody, again, is going through a really bad dark night of the soul. And it's because the way that they lived, where again they undervalued themselves. So again, you may be connected to somebody that you're not feeling them, and the reason why is because Your mind can't be in two places at one time. ESP connection with soulmates is a combination of heart and mind. Okay, it's felt. It's an energetic cord that's felt. So that cord never is broken, but that cord can expand and contract, and it can expand far. So it's through consciousness. So if a person is going through their healing cycle, and again they're not around you, that's why. So let's actually see. I'm curious what happened. We'll look at the triggers and the soul wounds and all that yada 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 after. But I'm curious what's going on here. What's going on? Okay, so I had got a two of swords. So again, makes sense, right? Like stalemate, and that's what I felt like that. You and your person are not really talking there, or there's no movement, and if there is, um like it would be a maybe, right? So if you're like, is this person going to come back? What is it? It's not that they want to come back, but their circumstances out of their control are making it difficult for them to come back. And and mainly because they're facing a lot of fears. They're torn between two relationships. So you may say, oh, so there's someone else. Well, I feel again that you're connected to someone that's connected to someone else. And so for financial reasons and for other things, but the relationship has been dead. It's not an existent relationship. It's not a good relationship. And why? Because the person is going through a dark night of soul. They can't go through a dark night of the soul and even see that they were living at a balance if unless they met somebody again that connected to their heart, right? So I'm assuming that they met you in the process of meeting someone else, and so in the process of being with someone else rather. And the relationship isn't good. Again, the person's very controlling. Intrusive energy is very controlling, and the person is very determined to keep the relationship together and has kept it together. And I think for a long time, that because there's a lot of money involved and there's a lot of other resources involved in children and family, and it's just easier to stay together. However, I believe that you are not someone that would say, "Oh yeah, you can be with me and you could be with someone else," or you can stay married to someone else and just be with me for passion. So no, it's again. So here we have the five of swords, and it's a conflict. However, it's conflict where I feel like the person's coming out of it. So again, we see the five of swords, and there's a lot of conflict, but I feel like there people are coming out of it. So again, dark night of the soul, the end of a relationship. But I believe it's the end of a relationship that was dead for a long time. So the person's really mourning whatever, like if they have children together, how their children are going to be affected, their home, like letting go of things more than that person. Just the fact that you have to change your life is uncomfortable. And the dark night of the soul, means that there's been tower moments and so this explains again the relationship. So, and then and here you are, I believe, the Queen of Pentacles. So you've been out there hustling, and I believe your person admires the fact that you are your own person with work. You are your own person with life. The Queen of Pentacles, I don't just see as someone that can go out and hustle and make money, but I believe they're very grounded. So that means that they have friends, that they have a very rounded life within the physical plane. And so they like that. I believe also because your person got together with someone that was so intrusive and somebody that was very controlling, and they stayed in this relationship, they don't have a good self-esteem. they don't feel that good about themselves. And or at one time they didn't feel good about themselves. So and now that they've everyone heals, everyone evolves, even when we don't deliberately do healing work, because life gives us lessons that makes us heal. It makes us change. It forces us to be different. Just having children, even if you didn't want to heal, because it opens up your heart. Every situation in life is spiritual. So again, I believe your person at one time was in a relationship with somebody else, and that relationship has been dead for a long time, but they stayed in that relationship. So that means that they were living more from, again, the physical realm, which is more of the ego, you know, hiding behind their money. Like they don't have love, but they had money. And so compensating. So, and but they see you as someone that's abundant. They see you as someone that's rounded, but understand the grass is always greener on the other side. And I'm not saying that they don't love, but they're not in a good place. So they're going to be perceiving you as, again, like maybe even a god, somebody that has their shit together, somebody that's definitely different than the person that they're with. And so isn't that always the way? And the reason why is because sometimes the answer is all about finding our balance. Maybe it's a combination between having someone that is home and took care of your house and gave you children and took care of that, but then also having someone that has their own life and has a job and can be balanced. And I think that that's really what your person is realizing. So when we get married young or we get together in a relationship, but when we don't know who we are, that's obviously when we're going to be inferior and we're going to be a lot easier manipulated. We're going to come mainly from what we think that we feel, but again, we can't come from the emotions. We got to come more from the gut. Again, because that gut is the psychic center of knowing, instead of, well, I felt like, it's like, yes, what you felt was a soul relationship. You felt was a soul relationship, but relationships take time to evolve. And why I'm saying this is, again, escaping ruin, pulling yourself together, learning from the past hardships. So I believe that you're like, I'm not touching this with a 10-foot pole. Like, and that also made you a lot more attractive to this person, because you were like, I'm not going to entertain this. Whatever this shit is, I'm not entertaining it. Because it's, again, I know who you are. I know that you're not strong. So again, understand, you might say, but I know this person loves me. Well, people have wounds. And you might need to learn the lesson of forgiveness, which happens to be the magic word of the day. Remember, all you need to do is like the video, subscribe to the channel, and write the word forgiveness to enter into winning a free psychic reading. And so, again, you might say, well, why am I dealing with this shit? And it's like you're dealing with it because you have to learn forgiveness. Because the person, again, isn't intentionally like not doing anything. It's like their process. They stayed stagnant in a bad relationship. They stayed connected to someone that was intrusive, which means they gave up their identity somehow, which meant that they didn't have identity. You say, how does a person doesn't have identity? Well, they went through trauma. And again, a lot of times when we go through experiences that are traumatizing, then we detach from ourselves. That means that we weren't creating a life. We weren't finding ourselves. So we wouldn't know what we like, what we don't like, who we are. We haven't invested enough. So we can then come right on in, like, and that's what it is. Well, so I'm glad that you resonate. And that's what happens. So then it's not about love. It's like love is there. It's about the fact that I am no longer that person. So how can I go with the flow of life? Well, it goes back to the beginning of the reading when I said that magical realism. I think I put the card back in the deck, and it was like magical realism to find yourself, right? It's again to be led through the universe, the signs and the symbols of the universe. But it begins by creating yourself, finding yourself, and then being interactive in life, and then being able to intuitively be led through your psychic centers. All right. Because if you're nervous and you're saying, well, I don't know, I like, well, then we don't want you to come from the past or make decisions based on your past, because then you'll overcompensate within your behaviorisms, right? It's not an all or nothing thing. It's about coming from your truth, which is how your reading started, being in your truth. And your truth is to that psychic center of knowing that that you're being led through spirit. And but it starts somewhere. Starts with you creating yourself, and then being interactive in life, and then being led through your intuition, because then you're not going to ever do anything the way that you did it in the past, and you're never going to make the same mistake. You're going to say, well, I learned from the past, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Why? Because I want to be happy. Obviously I want to be happy. So I want to see something. I want to just look and see what wounds we might still be dealing with, and what triggers. And then obviously, like, what's going to happen, because who cares? But we want to know what the wounds are, because they're going to play out as karmic situations and experiences, and we want to be prepared for them. We want to shape shift the situation. When you shape shift your situation, it means you get to change it, that you're changing it. You're the magician of your life. Again, if I was to pull a card and I say, I want to change like my life, God would say, well, the magician, you are the magician. You have all the tools that you need. Create yourself. No, I don't have it. I'm not enough. No, 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 no. You're out of alignment with the laws of God, the laws of love, the laws of nature. And God says, I don't make mistakes. You're part of my plan. You're part of the grand design. You're not here by mistake. Okay, so we have to say, well, what are the wounds then? Ooh, that just came, flip right the fuck over. Look at that. See? Submission. See? Submission. And why I don't like that. Why do I not like that? I don't like that because it's, again, that's the energy that this person was, like that, like how they stayed in that situation, right? So when we tend to stay in a situation where someone takes our energy, then the next time around we say, I'm never going to let anyone do that to me again. So I'm going to make the other person be that way. I need to be in control. So it's almost like a conscious thing, but it's survival, but then you're overcompensating. No one is supposed to be submissive to anyone or any situation. Look at this. Submissive, not sharing your opinions, going along with the crowd. Like, own your own power. Why, again, what did I just say? You have to come from your true self, the God part of self. Yeah, well, you are the magician of your own life. You get to create your own life. It's like, and you get to create your own life through, again, how you're utilizing your energy, and your energy are those tools that the magician has. How are you using your money? How are you using your time? How are you using your creative energy? How are you utilizing them? How are you directing your life force? Because your life force is actually spirit. It's actually God, because God is ubiquitous. It's the energy that we don't see. We wouldn't understand what it is. And God says, well, it's a consciousness. And then it's like, okay, still don't understand. And God says, well, you actually have a consciousness too. And it's like, yeah, I guess I do. And then God says, well, again, you are me in physical form. And so again, when we're out of alignment, it means that we're not coming from our truth. And so it means that we have spiritual blocks. And those blocks happen from experiences. So those experiences happen when we were submissive. So we have to, number one, be careful that we don't fall into another trap where you say, well, that person was really nice. I thought that that person was really nice. Why did that person do that? Well, you gave too much. You didn't find yourself. You went, it's like, yeah, you broke out of that relationship, but who you are today is not who you are tomorrow. How can you possibly go with the flow of life if you don't know who you are? So again, we're not trying to recreate what has already happened in the past. That's what Spirit's saying. This could happen again. Or this person, again, that has had that wound where they, again, had to live that way, they might come into the relationship and say, oh, no, you're going to do things my way. I need to be in control. And so, but the control is fear. And so you don't want to come from a place of fear either. And you say, well, I can't help it because that happened. And again, God says, don't do my job, do your job. Be like childlike, create yourself. You can't do that. So it's, again, yeah, like it's defensive. So right, submissive, defensive, submissive, like I'm going to go with it. I'm not going to go with it. Like I'm defensive. It's like, how can we possibly go with the flow, right? Go with the flow of life. That means, again, having difficulty with people, right? If I have to be defensive, it's like I'm unable to stand criticism, not able to see weakness, right? And that, again, the person doesn't know who they are. Cannot not know who you are. You have to be able to go with the flow of life. Life is constantly changing. I don't know why I'm getting a message, but it's like right now I'm like, I just gotta make sure that oh, okay. That's nice. Um, I'm like trying to all these messages now are coming through and I'm like, okay, I want to just shut the phone off. Sorry about that. Okay. My husband has a blood clot. And so he like I want to make sure that he's okay. So sometimes checking the messages. Yes, you got to be able to go with the flow of life. How do you think you could get through a tragic situation? You got to be, again, coming from your true self, your higher self. You got to be able to go with the flow of life. All right. So let's look at some more spiritual messages. Let's see what is now if you're in a relationship with a person and they're they're going through this dark night of the soul or there might be a separation, let's look and see what are their hidden truths, because it means that they do have feelings for you, but you're not at the forefront of their mind for obvious reasons, for everything that I just talked about for the past 35 minutes. All right, now I want to look at some hidden truths. Does your person feel? What does your person feel? What are they thinking? What are their hidden truths? What are they not telling you? Yeah, when we have spiritual wounds, a lot of times we are not able to communicate as best as we can. We're not able to share feelings and emotions. So it's good to know what the person really feels because, again, they may be acting completely opposite than what they really feel. I lost myself for a little while. So I feel like your person, that's where they are actually now. They're stuck in their mess. We pulled Dark Night of the Soul twice. So, I feel like there's a lot of tower moments within your person's life. Like everybody has, like in their life, things tend to be attached to other things. So when one part of our life fails, it's not uncommon for other, places in our life to fall apart, even certain relationships then to just not work. So I believe that your person's lost in that. Because there's always a mourning. No matter, even if we were like, I hated that person, or it was really time for me to move on, there's different layers of healing. There's regret. Maybe I could have handled it different. Maybe it's, again, like nostalgia. Like we did this, we did that, we did all these things. I've created a life with this person. How much that person loved it. It's guilt, confusing love with guilt. There's so many different layers to healing. That's why it's like peeling an onion, and but especially when a person goes through a dark night of the soul, so they would lose themselves. So again, you're not going to feel them because they're there. I wish things could be different. And that's again because I feel like they just don't see any way out. And I think that they realize that when they shouldn't have stayed in this relationship for as long as they did. They're starting to see that they were manipulated for a long time. And so it's years now of having to, you know, heal shit and to get rid of shit and to like relationships sell things that have been accumulated with each other. It's a hassle when you're with somebody and you know that it's not working, but then you've been guilted and manipulated, and then it's just easier, and then you don't want to lose your money, and then it's just easier. But then that means that your person was never coming from a true sense of self. You made them come from a true sense of self. This again, meaning I'm not living like this, and if I'm going to be with you, you have to be on a certain vibration. Now this card fell on the floor, so I'm going to take it because again, never believe in accidents. It's time for me to heal now. We knew that. Now part of the healing is again that dark night of the soul. So it's a tower moment, dark night of soul. It's like you're looking at your ruins. That's where your person's at. Let's see what your triggers are. Let's see how your person triggers you. Why not? Argument. When I feel angry and irritable, I will start an argument if not soothed. So again, that maybe a person, like when they get irritable, like maybe they deliberately created some distance with you through an argument because again they got overstimulated. They didn't know how to handle their what they were going through. They didn't feel what they're going through right now is a dark night of the soul, which means obviously it's the death of an ego because you're being faced with a lot. But before the person had this death of an ego, they had to have a big ego. And so that means that they would never look at themselves. So you might have tried to lay boundaries with them. And what this is saying is, well, I deliberately tried to create an argument because if you didn't do what I wanted you to do, well, then I just would act like an ass. And so you were dealing with energy again that was not stable. And it wasn't stable because they weren't living from their truth. Any more messages? Any more messages? What is the person going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? I'm making changes for the better. So they're in the process of, again, the dark night of the soul. And obviously they're going to have to come out through the dark night of the soul. And they're going to be making changes that are, I believe, are spiritually better for themselves, which is the whole point of why we go through the dark night of the soul, why we have tower moments. It's just the structure of how we were living. We've outgrown. We want more for ourselves. We are realizing that we're entitled to more, that we're deserving of more. Let's see. I want a new beginning with you. So again, that's what they are eventually going to do. But right now they're making the changes, which is good because what this says is that you put the boundary down, and because you did, they're respecting it. They feel safe with that. So understand this is very typical, which means that you had a spiritual test and you passed your spiritual test, even if you choose not to be with this person. But if you choose to be with this person, understand it's because you passed the spiritual test by setting boundaries and saying, I'm not going to put up with this. Whatever this is, you need to take care of your shit. And then, and I believe that they realize that they're determined to have a better life, to want a better life. They realized that they were living from a low vibration. They were living to accommodate someone else. They were being guilted and manipulated and had a lot of different feelings. And we can confuse um, guilt for love a lot of times. It's like, why do I feel so bad? I must care. You know, you are the first thing on my mind when I wake up in the morning. So again, if you're going to feel them, you'll feel them early in the morning or most likely really late at night. So they are planning on coming back. They do have feelings for you. They now again, this is general reading. You might be like, I don't care. I don't care like what they're going to do. But they may want to just do it for themselves, again, to make sure it's not a look, I'm in a superficial relationship with someone else because I'm not ready for real love with you. That's what it was the whole time. And that's what I was saying. They were in a relationship with somebody that, again, at one time, I do believe that it was love, but it fell apart. It wasn't. So then it was just like, it was just easier to be in that than actually going for divorce. But no one wants that because they'll say they'll get out of the relationship and they never will get out of the relationship. So you pass the spiritual test of that you're worthy, that you're deserving of real love, and understand because you did that, did it mean that the person didn't get mad? They got mad. They got into an argument with you. And again, didn't really communicate with you. But understand they didn't communicate to you because they had a big ego. They were embarrassed about their life. So they weren't coming from their true self. You're coming from your true self. So you are the marker. So remember, it's the person, soul relationships is all about somebody bringing, it's about bringing your person to God now, or your person bringing you to God. And that's through yourself, through your character, through becoming unconditional love. So by you saying, no, I'm deserving of much more than this, you're in a fucked up relationship that's superficial, that, I'm not going to tolerate this. They, again, did the right thing, but in doing the right thing, they're going through a tower moment. There's karma. There's a lot of karma. It's not happy days for them. Remember, the person attached to them was mighty fine living that way. So, and is going to be also jealous because, again, they're the person that has feelings for somebody else. And they know this because they've been able to manipulate them for so long. So it would actually come up as witchcraft. Like, oh, this person's doing witchcraft. They're not doing witchcraft. The person just has an emotional connection to that person because they have kids, they had other things, they had a relationship at one time. So it's, again, and then they treated them like crap because they didn't really love them. They stayed in the relationship for superficial purposes, meaning monetary, what it looked like, instead of for what it really was. And so again, now it's like crumbling. So the other person that was holding on to them now has to look at their life, and they're like, they don't want to do that because they're going to be like, well, it was okay that everything that you were doing, and the fact that I wasn't getting love all this time because I was living in a nice house, driving a nice car. And again, I could perceive myself as being someone that I wasn't. So again, that was a tower moment for that person because they also were out of alignment with the laws of God, the laws of love, the laws of nature. That's not their true self. That's coming from the ego self, and that's fear. And that means it's because you don't really like who you are. So, and then you're holding on to something which that's having the exact opposite energy. So we can understand why that would be bad. Okay, so what's the message? How are we going to tie this down? Okay, my energy creates my reality. What I focus on is what I will manifest. Hello. So I believe that that's what it's all about. So it's not about how you're going to create. Remember this, because people get caught up in, oh, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look right. I want to create a new life for myself. Or I want this relationship to work out. or I want a new relationship, right? So it could be anything, but if we're focused more on what we're afraid of, and we say, well, I don't think about that anymore. I healed the past, but it still keeps happening. Well, it means that you haven't created enough of a new life yet. It means that you're still energetically holding on to it. On some level, you haven't integrated that spiritual lesson. Spiritual lesson is again, my energy. It's not just talking about what you think and what you want. It's my energy. It's being the magician in your life, which we talked about, which is utilizing everything that you have to create your life so that you become who you're supposed to become. And that's a walk with the universe, a walk with God, because God works through you through gut intuition, inner knowing, and he works through your environment to bring in the people, situations, and experiences that are going to change your mind and your heart and that are going to create you and those resources. So we never know how we're supposed to create because we're not in charge of that. We're just supposed to, again, be like childlike, create, become. And when you do that and you're walking, then what happens is whoever's supposed to be in your life, they're going to treat you right because they're going to see that you respect you, and they're also going to love you more because they're going to do that. But then it's also, you're going to bring them to God. You say, I'm going to bring them to God. Well, all God is unconditional love. And when you become unconditional love through the manifestation process, it's again, you're in the highest vibration and it's a state of consciousness. And so you and your person are able to transcend the limitations of whatever spiritual wounds that you had that had blocked you from this unconditional love. But understand your person, if you don't learn the karmic lesson, then what this said was you would fall prey to falling back into a codependent relationship. Again, why was that? Because we pulled submissive and defensive, two opposite of energies, and say, well, again, well, I don't want to do that. And so God says, well, then use your energy by creating your reality and let me do the rest. It's again, and that is how you're able to go with the flow of the universe. If that person is supposed to be in your life, then they're going to match your energy. And unconditional love makes us a lot of times do that. We don't need to say anything to do it. And what this is saying is your person is going to come back to you, but it is karmic because it's again, and karmic energy is a lot of times, and this is not for everyone, but for those parties that have had on, off, they're going to come back to you. But unless you, again, eventually you can't just set a boundary. Eventually they're going to come back and say, okay, I'm going to do what you want me to do, is what the card said. But it's up to you to break that karmic cycle, and because it's again, you need to do it. If you don't do it, then what happens is this relationship, the next relationship that I was picking up on, will again continue to do the same thing because we still haven't learned the spiritual lesson. So I hope that you resonated with that. I'm glad that you're manifesting a lot, Suzanne. It's all about becoming yourself, it's all about creating yourself. It's important. It's how do you think you recreate neurological pathways in your mind were created from beliefs and again, just reflexes and behaviorisms and habitual behaviorisms, right? It creates neurological pathways where things become automatic. So when you are manifesting light and you're creating new experiences, well, then those old experiences then a lot of times are integrated because in the process of creating yourself, you're becoming a new person. It's again, you're raising your consciousness. And so a lot of times people say, can I, I know I'm in a soul relationship, but the person is difficult or the person is this, how can I control? Well, you can't control the situation, you control yourself. And unconditional love is unconditional love. It can't be controlled. It can't be manipulated. So those soul relationships that are soulmate, twin flames relationships, you may be with someone that has a really big ego. It's again, that's fear. That's not, so in that you have to be, again, you have to be strong. The karmic test a lot of times is I'm not strong. It's like I love this person. I can feel that they love me too, but they made me do this. And now since they made me do this, now they don't like me, or now this happened for me, this bad situation. And God says, because it's about being in your truth. I'm glad that that makes sense, because it's all about healing. I mean, our relationships are all about teaching us about ourselves. And sometimes we're like, this moron's supposed to be teaching me about myself. This person that hurt me, like, what are they teaching me? And why? And why does that keep happening to me? It's like, and why do I feel this way? And so understand, it's because it only takes one bad relation. It doesn't even take a bad relationship, to be honest with you. It takes first you have to get through with your mother and your father loving and nurturing to you emotionally. And I'm not talking about like overly sensitive. I'm overly sensitive. They couldn't. I'm talking, and even if you were, that would create a wound. A lot of times we don't get what we need in childhood. Like, so a lot of times we inherit family karma. And that family karma is how your parents dealt with their stress, how they dealt with people, how they dealt with, with their traumas. So then we're repeating their habits. So again, the soul wounds. And so you say, well, why is that? Well, you're getting incarnated to learn that you're not separate from God, but it's going to be through pain and suffering. And so you get born into these families, and a karmic theme plays out. And so then what happens is that and the karmic theme plays out, and obviously, like, the consciousness that we're living is our reality. So if you were abused, that's our true reality. And you say, why I wouldn't want to be born into that. And the spirit says, actually, the more painful the experiences, the more you expand consciousness, because we learn it affects us, it changes us, it molds us. So what do you mean, nope, Wendy? Soul healing, expand consciousness, evolution. We're all evolving into higher states of consciousness. And so, like I said, so a lot of times we don't even realize that we need healing. I'm just looking for this deck, this one. Here it is. Let's just see what message the spirit wants to start us off. Let's play a little bit more, just because. I am a spirit having a human experience, and I'm here to get closer to love. All right, like, I feel like then I can actually end this at this point. And you know why? Because if we go into full circle, what have I been talking about this whole time? That you are learning. You are well evolved. It's like, and so you say, well, it doesn't mean that well, yes, exactly. So when you don't, right. So it teaches you what you wished you would have had. It teaches you to say, like, most people take it for granted. Just like most people take being able to walk or breathe for granted. So when we don't get it, there's a sense of becoming overly sensitive to the fact that we didn't get it, and then we wind up giving it to other people. So you are more evolved in consciousness, because it's all about this, which is what I've been saying the whole time. I am a spirit. So you're a spirit, which is you are God, you're unconditional love, because you have unconditional love inside of you. And so, but you're having a human experience. A human experience is you were born into dysfunction. You were born into family karma. the family karma again, and what were the karmic lessons that you had to learn? I had to learn that I am lovable, I am worthy, because they made me feel like I wasn't worthy. They made me feel like I wasn't good enough. They made me feel that I'm not. And then God would say, and let me ask you something, Wendy, how did that play out again? And you'd say, every fucking relationship, every like, what, oh, so was it just men? No, it wasn't just men. It was women too, a betrayal. And this, and I constantly got hurt, and I constantly got hurt. So that, I bet you, made you feel dysfunctional, didn't it? Yes, it did. I don't appreciate that at all either. Well, you have a lot of anger in that there, don't you? Yeah, I do. I have a lot of anger, and God says, well, in alchemy, you have to transmute that. Otherwise, spiritual wounds, will turn into physical wounds. So, that you have to do that. Yeah, okay, so how am I supposed to do that? And God says, is that your story? That your parents did that? It's like, well, it's part of my story. And I know for me, it was part of my story because my father had cancer 9 times and my mother tried to kill me several times. I wrote a book about it. So you want to talk about mean parents? I can tell you. My father wasn't mean, though. He was just an alcoholic it was like he wasn't there. So the mean one overruled the house. So understand, you say, well, the human experience, and I'm here to get closer to love. All God is love, but is unconditional love. So when we have dysfunctional parents, why are we still angry? We're still angry because we care, because there's unconditional love, when underneath all of it, it's like, well, you're still my parents, so I still love you, even though it's dysfunctional. And God says, that's a lesson of unconditional love a lot of times. So you yourself, Wendy, would be on the healer's path and say, well, what am I supposed to do with all this fucking shit? Because obviously I have to transmute it. You're telling me I got to transmute it. You got to tell me that it's alchemy, that I can't just get rid of this negative energy, that I'm here to get closer to love. How the hell am I going to get closer to love? I'm mad. I'm at the opposite end of the spectrum here. I'm not anywhere near unconditional love. And God says, well, it's again, you got to figure that out. It's like, well, how the hell am I going to figure it out? I'm mad. And I says, well, we got to get out of getting mad, first. But understand, first of all, we got to look at the experience as it was supposed to happen. And you're like, supposed to happen. Yeah, thanks. Those are supposed to happen. Why was it supposed to happen? Why was it supposed to happen? Let's see what other decks of cards we got going on. Like, why was it supposed to happen? Let's look at one second. Better deck of cards for this scenario. We're going to use this one. We're going to use this one. And any others? I'm going to use this one. So we'll look at like some past life, because it's like we have to say, well, what the hell? Like, closer to love. Well, I'm so I need to figure out. So I'm supposed to use all these broken pieces. And God says, yeah, he says, those broken pots that are the most broken, I'd get to display my glory. He goes, they're not broken. It was like, they're actually the strongest. The builder said to Jesus, well, we're going to throw out all these half bricks, they're broken. And God told Jesus, no, tell him that I can't do that. And Jesus said, you can't throw those bricks away. And they said, they're broken. And then Jesus said, no, they're the strongest. They're the cornerstone. They hold up the entire building. And so you're broken, but again, those broken pieces are actually the strongest ones. You transmute them. And it's because, again, you're supposed to, again, turn your spiritual wounds into spiritual gifts. You have sensitivity because you came from that environment. You have more empathy, sensitivity, and empathy. So it's again, that's healer energy right there. So what do you need healing in? That's where you start. You start where you are. God says you don't got to go anywhere. You don't got to attain anything. It's again, start where you are. Well, I have this issue. I have that issue. I have the other issue. So God says, well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit there? What? Because understand, every master starts as a disaster. So I hope that you're not judging what it looks like, because no one looks good in the beginning. How else would you be able to connect so well with other people? Are you going to be a know-it-all? No, it was like you got to not know that you don't know. So let's see, the mirror, who or what is triggering you? So again, the answer is again the triggering. So again, we look at the soul wounds. So you're a mirror of who and what comes into your life. So you have to say, how do I do this healing? And the healing comes in the fact of saying, what is unfolding within my environment? And then saying, like writing down everything that you don't like that's happening in your environment. And then writing the reason why you don't like it. Because again, then we can see, oh, well, I know at least what I want to change. Deep replenishment. Yes, again, retreat, rest, be held. So again, we find our intuition. So if you're in a place right now, Wendy, where you feel like your mind is always racing and you can't get good insight. And I only say that because as a highly sensitive person, too much thought, too much emotion creates a lot of overstimulation. Fight, flight, or freeze. Highly sensitive people tend to not feel good about themselves because they get frozen. It brings them back to a time of childhood when they were brought up by parents that didn't make them feel good. So it's again, that's the wound. It's like I feel inadequate. I feel like I don't know why the fuck. And God says it's not a mistake. Not here by mistake, you're here by my design. You're like, what fucking design is this shit? And God says, well, it's again, once you heal it, it's a beautiful design. And understand, and it's unique and it's only one of a kind. So no one can copy it. No one can copy it. And I will make a way where there is no way just for you. So don't do my job, do your job. Be like childlike, start where you are. Even if it's the broken pieces, and rest and meditate on it and get what you need emotionally, because part of the reason why you're not replenished is emotionally you're not getting what you need. So obviously, if we're just working and trying to get our emotional stability from people and outside, people and work and whatever, it's going to look like a roller coaster because it's not based on us. Remember, the kingdom of heaven's inside of you. If you can imagine it, you can create it, become yourself, unconditional love. So we get that replenishment, really, and that rest, and we're able to retreat into ourselves through, again, the process of becoming ourselves and also incorporating the meditation and the intuition, because saying that somebody needs to shut their mind off. Because God's saying, well, with all that chatter, how can I get a word in edgewise? You would never hear from me. I only happen in the now. Only in the now do I give you divine guidance through gut intuition, inner knowing, and you're highly sensitive. So you have claircognizance, you have clairsentience. How come you're not having a relationship with me? Have you lost your way? And you say, well, I kind of lost my way. God says, I told you, don't let the world tell you who you are. It's again, become yourself, become yourself, become yourself. Don't imagine just because, again, those were your parents. Heal yourself, heal yourself, heal yourself so you can help heal others. To give and receive of love is your free will. It only takes a mustard seed. God makes them multiply. So God says, just again, be on your path. The poem footprints, I'll carry you. Don't worry. Longing for home, belonging to light workers. I mean, I'm telling you that, like, the healer's path, the healer's path. I don't know if you can see this, but it's like, I need my blessing. Loving, loving, longing for home, belonging again to the original light workers. So it's again the healer's path, but it starts with healing yourself. It's again, and due to the fact that it's still a very big part of your story. That they still aren't supportive. This shit is still the same no matter what happens, no matter who I am. And God says they might not be able to clap for you because they haven't healed themselves. So you're dealing with family karma. And when there's family karma, our parents can't see any further than what has transpired in their own life. So God says, again, why are you waiting for them? You're supposed to heal them. You're like, what the fuck? I'm supposed to heal them? And God says, you're supposed to do that. They don't know how to do it. You're supposed to break the karma. They don't know. You have more information than they do. What are you talking about? I have more information. God says, are you walking the path? It's like, well, the longing for home, girl, is the answers are inside of you. And that's a home is not a place. It's the people you connect to. It's becoming who you are. And so where you're like, I don't 100% know what that is. And God says, well, okay, well, have we done the healing work? Because it starts from first becoming who you are and say, well, right now, I don't really know who I am because a lot of who my parents said that I was, and maybe they didn't even tell me, maybe just their actions like told me unconsciously that's who they believed that I was. And God says, that's who they are. So again, they projected that because that's what sick people do. And spiritually sick people do that because when the world experiences distort their perceptions about themselves and the world around them. They come from a place of fear. That's not their true self. So you have to break that karma. And what better way for them to think that you're weaker than them? How can anything that came from me be better than me? It's again because I am not you. I'm not an extension of you. I'm my own person. And God says, are you walking that path? You're not walking that path. So you're living that conscious. So remember, the light worker that's looking for home has to become it. Has to become it. So it's again, God says there's a lot of hours in the day. So I don't want to hear anything about your job, Wendy. Too much hours and with like again, because you're not you got to use the internet. You got to use the limited resources within the physical world to become yourself. This is a root chakra imbalance, connection to mother and father. Again, why? Because how they made me feel. It's again, didn't make me, I didn't find myself. God says, again, that's not your identity. You're angry still with them because you believe this is my fucking identity. Look at my life because of you. God says they couldn't do that. It's again, you have to become yourself. Don't give anyone that power. And so understand you got to go through the fire. I got to go through the fire. God says, yeah, you got to go through the uncomfortableness. There's going to be anxiety there. There's going to but you're in control of yourself. Keep your mind on the prize. Become yourself. Hey, what else do you need? I need support. This is a root chakra imbalance. I'm becoming myself. So God says, well, you got to get into your physical body. You have to, again, train your nervous system. You have to every day go on the internet and be interactive in life. And you have to invest in yourself because, again, you didn't get the love you needed. So God says it means that you got to give yourself the love that you needed. Because every single motherfucker that comes into your life, you have to teach them, no. This is the way that it looks. This is the way that it looks to love me. I could do it for myself. Otherwise, you don't belong in my life. Because I only have so much time, energy, focus, and money. And I'm not going to waste it and squander it on somebody that doesn't know how to love me. So that's, again, because I didn't get that. And otherwise, or I perceived I didn't get that. So that would be a wound, Wendy, that would continue to play out. And God says, please don't look for anyone else to give you that unconditional love all the time. God says, only I am perfect. Do not. And that means, so you're like, great, so you're perfect. So God says, and you are me, so become it. because that unconditional love is inside of you by becoming it, by giving it and receiving it. And so then you're teaching a person, I don't need you to fill my own cup. I fill my own cup and it's so over the top, overflowing. You only get what falls out of the cup. This way, if you're an asshole, it doesn't matter because my cup is still full and I'm still interactive in life. You got to teach people how you want to be treated. Otherwise, it's not going to go well. What are you clinging on to? And again, what I feel like you were clinging on to, like an old story, that old story, because it's like I wasn't coming from that consciousness. I didn't know. I didn't know. Is again, don't dim to fit in. Don't dim to fit in. Don't dim to fit in. It's again that you have a light. So that light is your story, believe it or not. How are you dimming your light in order to fit in? You might be like, well, I don't really feel like I fit in anywhere. I really don't really feel like I have a tribe. I really don't feel, and God says, because you're going to evolve. And part of evolving is healing, and we shed people, but then how would you renew people? And God says, I'm the one that's in charge of bringing people into your life. I'm the one that's in charge of bringing the experiences into your life. Yes, you will go out into life and see certain things, but it's your intuition that will lead you. So again, the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. If you can imagine it, you can create it. Don't dim to fit in. It's again, those are spiritual gifts. And notice the eye. See again that intuition, that light worker energy. It's like, but you have to heal yourself, and that's a process, and that's how we expand our own spiritual gifts. And there's many different types of coaches, Wendy. There's many different types of healers. There's many different types. So you're going to have to, again, find yourself. And that means like going on the different platforms to do so, to see what resonates, to see how you're called. Because again, that's the path. That's how you're on your path. It's like, oh, I don't know. I just felt like I should join. And then I wasn't sure whether I should join. And then guess what? It was the right money. It was the right time. Everything just kind of lined up into like just wound up falling into place. And God says, well, it's again, I will make a way where there's no way for you. So no issue here. Birthing a new age, birthing a new creation, streaming a new world into being. Okay, so Wendy, you're going to start again on this new spiritual journey. I believe I do a new way of being, breaking family karma. Let's see what these spiritual messages. Never used these cards before. They're like gigantic, but it's like they're just to see, okay, being that this is happening for you, just want to see one last, which is serenity. Through love, release the inner work. I know peace. I have a gentle view of life and welcome every step with confidence. I remain brave in the face of fear and have the wisdom to let the universe do its work. And that's what it was saying. That God's saying, you're on your spiritual path. You're using your broken pieces. Don't worry about how it's going to happen. You're not in charge of that. The universe is saying this, that it's again, your job is to be calm. Your job is to relax. Stay in a high vibration by becoming unconditional love, by doing what you love, by connecting to people that you will love. It's again, and you'll find your tribe. And so you can stay like in this high vibration so that you can get intuitive insight, because your mind can't be in two places at one time. Even if you're worried, how am I going to happen? How am I going to happen? So you're not going to know. But hey, I wound up taking tango lessons and tonight, and Mary Jane was horrible at tango. And you know what? I got that intuitive insight when I left tango dancing tonight. I didn't even realize. I wasn't even thinking about it. God says, yeah, you created enough space for me to do my job, the universe says, where I could give you those messages, but not if you're like, I'm worried, I can't, I got to control it. And God says, what are we controlling? What are we controlling? Can't control everything. You can only control yourself. And you want to be able to go with the flow of life, because we can't control life. So it's not about controlling life, it's about controlling you. And that's again by becoming what you love. And as I said, your biggest thing, which is what the last spiritual message that I said that I was going to pull for you, Wendy, was the last message that Spirit said. The most important message is you have to learn how to get into this energy, this relaxing energy, so that again the universe can lead you, because you're already intuitive, you're already highly sensitive, you already know the language of synchronicities. That's a strength, but not if you're overstimulated. So it's again that, and that's a wound, because again you never felt comfortable, never felt comfortable growing up. If that's always, they will always mean that I've never felt comfortable, so I never felt comfortable in myself, so I don't even know what the hell that fucking feels like or looks like. And Spirit says, so what are we going to do about that? You're going to join yoga, you're going to take a body mind lesson, and you're going to do weight training. What are you going to do? Because you got to do something, because again healing means we got to do something to get to do something different. And then I can lead you even more. And now with this newfound energy and knowledge, you're going to recreate your life. You're going to recreate your life, because then you're going to see. And God says, and that's the way it's supposed to be. I give you the story of who you think you are. Then there's a real story of who you truly are. And you say, why the hell do you do that? And God says, for my glory. Say, thanks. Thanks for making my life hard for your glory. And God says, you're welcome. He says, again, this ain't heaven down here. You're learning how to get good enough to get to heaven. And it's again, and that's through becoming unconditional love. I want to thank you for joining, Wendy, and I hope to see you again. If you haven't joined the channel, please do so. Subscribe so that you'll know when I'm always on. I'm going to run it, because I'm going to jump onto my Virgo channel. I haven't been on for a while, like my husband's health and life, and just trying to be able to go with the flow of life. And, I'm an empath too. So being consistent is, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So again, getting in the moment, getting in the now. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks for joining, and I will see you next time. All right. Bye.